My golden brother hired a private investigator to expose me as a failure, but instead, he uncovered my multi-million-dollar success. I was raised in a quaint little village with my two siblings. The middle sibling is me. The fact that everyone there knows one another can be both a strength and a weakness. My father is the kind of man who puts in a lot of work, but keeps his emotions to himself. He is now thinking about retiring. My mother is the total opposite of him. She has consistently maintained the house and upheld the traditional ideals she was taught growing up. My parents are both from traditional, religious families. They are my parents, and I love them, but I've always felt that I didn't live up to their standards. The fact that they appear to view me as the family's disappointment hurts. In contrast, my older brother is the family's golden boy. At 40, he settled down and married a calm, reticent woman. Their two sons have a strong interest in sports, particularly rough-and-tumble sports. To put it mildly, they're a pain. My brother appears to feel it is his duty to guide me in life. He works as a car salesperson at a local dealership. His mentorship, however, feels more like him treating me like a project he can't manage, as if I'm always in need of assistance and should be appreciative of any time he spends with me. He presents a picture of a wonderful existence, talking about his athletic children, his powerboat, and his ATVs, but his counsel frequently comes off as boasting about his big house, fancy cars, and his so-called trophy wife. I feel even more alone as a result of this. I was the sensitive child at school who frequently broke down in tears and appeared to always find an excuse for why things didn't go as planned. I wasn't a strong, tough child or athletic. As an alternative, I was made fun of and kept out of most activities. Having asthma made me feel even more alienated. The worst thing is that asthma is not considered a significant medical problem by my parents. Furthermore, I have battled depression for as long as I can remember. I was never the kind of child who could run down a field or throw a football straight. My parents frequently made remarks about how I wasn't as intelligent or gregarious as my older brother and frequently made comparisons between us. School was challenging. I had a poor 2.5 GPA when I graduated from high school. After saving up some cash, I enrolled in college, but I left in my second year. A family controversy resulted from such a choice. In a sense, my younger sister was the princess of the family. I don't know much about her because I left when she was a teenager. The main reason I feel this way about her is because I have seen her as an adult. She is not a horrible person and is merely a little overindulged, but maybe because it's simpler than being the target herself. She frequently treats me the same way my parents and brother do. She had a beautiful wedding, was married when she was 19, and has 3 kids now. I can best identify with her middle child. I guess I see a little of myself in her because she's also the middle child. She gets mocked a lot, and maybe because her problems are similar to mine, I feel like I know her better. After I graduated from college, I really began to embrace my nerdy side. Before it closed more than 7 years ago, I worked at a comic book and video game store in my community, which I really enjoyed. Even though I have moved on, my parents still behave as though I work there. The best part of my position at the store was getting to know another geek with huge ambitions. We co-founded a successful IT support business together. My business partner ultimately made the decision to sell our company to a bigger corporation. I was bought out with cash and stock options as part of the deal, and it worked out rather well. I started a few side projects and made a number of wise investments, several of which were quite profitable. I try not to brag, but I have more than $1 million in assets. I currently work for a brand new private startup as its CTO. Even though I'm wealthy, I live a humble life. All of the furnishings in my comfortable 2-bedroom house in a fantastic area are used, and I drive a 15-year-old Saturn. Right now, I'm not in a relationship. I have a hectic life and see my therapist on a regular basis. Like my melancholy and asthma, I deal with drinking, which is difficult because my parents don't take it seriously. They believe it to be wholly mental. Even if it's not what other people anticipate or comprehend, I've been able to carve out a prosperous career for myself in spite of the ups and downs. My parents expect me to join them for supper every Sunday night. They live on the opposite side of the state, so the travel is not quick. It takes 90 to 120 minutes each way, which eats up over half of my weekend. They still seem to think that as an unmarried individual, and what my brother likes to refer to as a mental case, I have nothing better to do. These meals are frequently difficult. I get unsolicited advice on how to marry, establish a family, and be a proper adult for 3 hours, or I sit through lengthy conversation about my brother's most recent huge sale at the car dealership, which is the buzz of the table. Although they have never called me a mooch directly, the implication is there. If I skip one of these dinners, it is both frustrating and perplexing. I frequently question why I still go to these events when I talk to my therapist. My family has a tendency to downplay or misrepresent all of my accomplishments. People back home still think I work at the long-gone game store. My brother was seen as more mature and gregarious than I was, and he had a successful profession as a result. I was continuously made fun of for my prior retail experience. I found it challenging to communicate to my family back home the truth about my life and my achievements because of this disparity. Games and comics were sometimes written off as immature entertainment. Despite my genuine expertise in technology, my attempts to discuss it were typically overshadowed. My brother would interrupt me and pretend as if I didn't know anything. Even though I knew he was babbling, I typically just listened to him. I was scared to correct him since I would have to explain my work and defend my knowledge. I secretly feared that they wouldn't value my career and that it would alter their opinion of me. I'll confess that I've had difficulties and occasionally been a complete mess. However, everything changed last month. My brother managed to get his hands on some of my personal information. The truth is that he employed a private investigator to carry out what he said was a background check on my employment. I had a sneaking suspicion that he was organizing an intervention with my folks. They were totally unprepared for what they discovered. They learned my actual value as a person, that I didn't live in a rundown flat, and other private information. Since I work in security, this was very ironic. After making the connections, I was even able to track out the source of the hack by receiving notifications about unauthorized efforts to get my credit report. Everything became clear after this revelation, and I now have to deal with my family's abrupt and unanticipated change in how they view me. It's a lot to take in, particularly in light of our relationship's history of miscommunication and undervaluation. I chose to have the same private detective firm look into my brother's money since I was so upset over the breach of my privacy. My brother was actually living well beyond his means. A file with Child Protective Services, several previous arrests for DWI and public intoxication, and domestic disturbance calls were also discovered throughout the investigation. He was having trouble making his scheduled back payments to the IRS and managing 3 mortgage loans on his house. Despite the fact that there were currently no ongoing charges, his credit was a total mess. In contrast, my parents had little more than what I already knew and lived modest lifestyles. When it came to money, they were realistic and pragmatic. I was so concentrated on getting ready to confront my family at the next meal, hoping it would cause a rift, that I didn't even care to see how my sister was doing. But the dinner's atmosphere was completely different from what I had imagined. My parents started to treat me with a strange sort of veneration, as if I were the golden child. This adjustment obviously distressed my brother. He lost his temper midway through dinner. In an attempt to restore his reputation, he began boasting about recent sales commissions and a purported promotion. I just gave him my congratulations and mentioned his debt, IRS problems, and stretched credit condition in a tactful manner. In other words, I called attention to my brother's financial disaster while simultaneously celebrating his accomplishments. The whole thing was oddly gloomy. The already challenging family dynamic was made even more awkward by my parents' sudden change in behavior toward me, which appeared forced and artificial. At first, my brother disputed everything. When I handed him a copy of the report, however, I pointed out that by utilizing the agency to look into me, he had inadvertently suggested it. I have to say, that felt good for a little while. My parents, who reprimanded him and responded with dramatic shock, were obviously aware of it as well. The whole thing became very unsettling because the report needed my social security number. It was not a pleasant revelation or the ensuing argument, as it revealed my family's avarice and cowardice. My disdain for them grew. They started accusing one another of a variety of things throughout the course of the following hour. I made every effort to keep quiet, but sometimes they became irate with me. I would either shrug or respond with a nonchalant one-word comment when that occurred. My sister's husband, my brother's wife, and their 5 kids looked on, shocked, as our family disintegrated like never before. Our meetings were typically routine and uninteresting. My sister would give updates whenever she could. My brother and his wife would boast about their lives. My mom would strike up a conversation, and my dad would complain in response. This collapse had never occurred during one of our family dinners. It was a tumultuous meal, to say the least, as long-simmering, deeply ingrained issues exploded into the open. The customary subtle jabs about how I should look up to my brother and be a real man were replaced by astonished quiet. I got into a heated disagreement with my dad and brother myself. They dug up every relic of family strife from the previous 30 years and argued over who was responsible for everything. It was like watching an unruly drama play out in real time. All of my negative thoughts about my family seemed to be validated during such instances. In all honesty, I felt terrible. Even though you might have expected me to feel some sort of justice or triumph, I became aware of my poor handling of the situation. Although I was well aware of these flaws, what had I meant to accomplish by making my brother's wrongdoings public? His children now know about his tumultuous history, which I had not wanted them to. When my brother yelled at me in a fit of wrath, the situation reached a breaking point. His harsh statements, such as, "You should have never been born," were stunning, but what really stuck out was my parents' desperate attempts to calm him down, a degree of desperation I had never witnessed before. He accused me of being the cause of all the family's problems. They made an effort to intervene, but they never really admitted or accepted responsibility for the way they had treated me throughout the years. I was both very saddened and vindicated. It served as a harsh and obvious reminder of the underlying problems in our family's dynamics. My parents accused me of something else until I could take it no more. They implied that I could have helped but decided not to, claiming that I was refusing to help a sick niece or nephew. I had no knowledge of such a circumstance. No one had ever told me about this issue or reached out to me for help. I suspected they were making things up as they went along, but I didn't challenge it. I thought you believed I was still working at the comic book shop. I reminded them instead. They never seemed to understand that the store had closed in 2011, even though I had reminded them several times. The way they had misrepresented our family history to fit their storyline appalled me. I drove home after feeling overburdened and annoyed. I'm feeling conflicted right now. Knowing that they would probably put pressure on me to repay them now that they are aware of my money makes me feel deceived. I know what's coming because I've witnessed how they treated my brother in a similar manner. However, I also recognize and value the fact that my parents provided for my basic needs as a child, including clothing, food, and housing. It will be difficult to navigate this labyrinth of thankfulness, bitterness, and freshly set boundaries. I'll probably need my therapist's assistance to process this change in dynamics. It's obvious that establishing clear limits going forward will be essential. Growing up was challenging because, to be honest, I was never the favorite child in my family. My brother mistreated me, but my parents did little to stop it. Even though they never physically beat me, my parents responded as though nothing was wrong whether he kicked, hit, or said extremely terrible things. They completely disregarded it. It is really concerning that they do not consider verbal abuse to be damaging or real. Verbal abuse is terrible in and of itself, but it is even more painful when the people who are there to protect you choose to ignore it. I've had enough of fighting this for years. Even though I am aware that they are my family, I feel the need to keep a permanent distance. Although I wish them well, I think it will be better for me to go on and begin a new chapter without them. If I discover someone amazing, like a girlfriend, and we decide to be married and have kids, what will happen then? How will I deal with these problems with my family? It may get rather complicated, so I'm attempting to figure it out. How can I introduce my new family to my family if I'm not talking to them anymore? I have a lot of questions about what lies ahead. Prior to reading the update, allow me to give you some advice. Your family didn't appreciate you as a person if they merely wanted you around to boost their self-esteem. They want you around to take advantage of your wealth now that they are aware of your financial achievement. You are not defined by your family. According to everything you've said, they, not you, are the issue. You come across as a good-hearted, diligent individual who endured harsh treatment in your family circumstances. Put your phone away and carry on with your life. You've done a great job creating your own life. Reduce the amount of time you spend with your family as much as you like. They only want your money, and you know it. As a result, you can communicate with them however you see fit. Stay in touch with your therapist to help you move into a life where they don't hold you back. Steer clear of pointless conversations, if at all possible. Think about relocating to a new place, packing up your things, and starting over. You are not alone if you have to make tough choices, because many people struggle with their families. When it comes to dating, explaining these dynamics to a potential spouse might be challenging, particularly if they have tight family ties, but you will start your own family when the time is right. Actions to take going ahead. If you haven't done so, put a security freeze on your credit accounts. If your brother used dealership resources to collect information about you, let the appropriate parties know. The dealership is unlikely to be amenable to being implicated. If his activities involve fraud, speak with an attorney. Despite your youth, mishaps do occur. Your parents would currently inherit your assets as your default next of kin. Put it in writing as soon as you can if you would rather have someone else be the beneficiary. Locate a trustworthy counselor. You may feel sad about being apart from your family in the upcoming months. Speaking with an expert will assist you in processing this. Update. Following the family dinner argument, it was like leaving a battle zone when I got home. I flew across the quiet nighttime road with nothing but my thoughts. I knew that something needed to change as soon as I pulled into my driveway. If I didn't want to go insane, I had to quit attending family dinners. I concentrated on my work and mental well-being during the course of the following 2 weeks. Not only were the gadgets and comic books strewn over my home visually appealing, but they served as a sanctuary for me. In order to figure out how to separate from my family without totally alienating them, I stepped up my therapy appointments during this period. My therapist, Dr. Bennett, was really helpful. He used methods that felt more like building a fort than a wall to help me set boundaries. My mind started to go toward the future, more especially relationships, as the weeks went by and the temperature rose. I began to think that meeting someone amazing was not just possible, but likely after spending time by myself and without a partner. Then, like something from a comic book, Ava showed up. Ava and I met at a technology conference. Her cybersecurity talk captivated me, not just because of the topic, but also because of her charisma. She was smart and grounded, understood me, and had a love-centered view of families that was restrained by firm boundaries. As Ava's and my situation grew serious, the unsaid problem was how to introduce her to my family's circus. We discussed how to deal with it over numerous pizza-eating evenings. We made the decision to have short, visible, and casual family get-togethers. Everything changed when Ava even offered to help me. Our initial interactions were straightforward coffee dates. I reintroduced myself to family gatherings while Ava was around. Naturally, the first few times were really uncomfortable. My parents were too polite and wary, as though I might vanish at any moment. In contrast, my brother looked to be attempting to express a lot, but was having trouble finding the perfect words. But my sister and her kids were a pleasant diversion. My sister's middle child, who looked a lot like me, was instantly won over by Ava. We became accustomed to these coffee dates, which were like short forays into family territory, a brief coming and going. I was able to reconnect without becoming entangled in the chaos thanks to this strategy. Unexpectedly, it started to function. My family adjusted to the arrangement over time. Maybe they understood that this was the only way they could continue to have me in their life. They began to be mindful of my limits. As things got better, I started to consider the long term more. What might the future hold for us together? With Ava, I envisioned building a solid family foundation based on respect and caring for one another, rather than obligation and guilt. I knew there would be difficulties, of course. Ava and I talked about the prospect of living together one summer evening when we were walking by the lake. I was struck by how far I had come from feeling abandoned by my family to being able to stand on my own with a better sense of who I was. It seemed like day and night. I have a cautious sense of optimism for the future. I feel prepared, even though I know the road ahead may be rough with possible potholes the size of craters. Setting limits with my family after Ava was more than simply a matter of protecting myself. It was about making room for new connections and a fulfilling future for myself. The infamous Sunday meals are still planned, but they now take place according to my preferences. I go occasionally and don't go other times. I bring Ava along to family dinners, and we discuss any issues that arise. Even though there has been a lot of improvement, there are still issues. The secret is finding that balance, keeping things harmonious without becoming overpowered. Hi everyone, I'm still learning how to share stuff online, so please be patient with me. I want to tell you everything that's going on in my life at the moment. Let's start by introducing the main characters. I am the storyteller. Peach is our daughter. Mario is our son, and Daisy is my soon-to-be ex-wife. We are currently going through a challenging separation that is quickly turning into a very acrimonious divorce. The main reason Daisy and I are divorcing is that she accepted her bisexuality earlier this year. She expressed her desire for our marriage to be open to me directly. I was not at all comfortable with that notion. When I learned that Daisy had slept with my coworker, who is also one of my closest friends, the situation got even worse. That must have been terrible and awkward. It seemed like a betrayal from both my household and my place of employment as a police officer. We were unable to stay together after that. I took a break to think things out. Daisy did everything she could to keep us together at first, but when it became apparent that I was adamant about not opening our marriage despite her reasons and entreaties, things took a nasty turn. Daisy's perspective had changed. She became bitter, and the last thing I wanted was for her to start playing pawns with our kids. Daisy started telling Peach that she had to leave our home because I no longer loved them. I detested them, she said, and I was destroying our family. It was heartbreaking to hear that, especially in light of Peach's obvious confusion and grief. Our kids frequently visit Daisy's mother's home, where she currently resides. Daisy and her new friend attempt to make these visits seem like a huge, thrilling vacation, presumably in an attempt to play the cool parents and turn Peach and Mario against me. They lavish them with toys and candy. In addition to our mental struggle, Daisy and I disagree on nearly everything. This involves deciding who should inherit what belongings and how much money one of us should contribute to support the other. The hardest part, though, is choosing how to split up Mario and Peach's time. Daisy fights back against every compromise we try to reach. She seems to be making things more difficult for herself. Daisy has been telling our kids things lately that make me the bad guy, which is unjust. For example, Peach and Mario have been asking me whether I don't like Daisy's new friend, AP. Let's call them AP. AP seems to adore them more than I do, for whatever reason. Such talk is a major disturbance to their minds. I was working on a big project at work a few weeks ago. I was working much more overtime in my pursuit of a promotion from police officer to homicide investigator. Daisy and I agreed that the kids would spend this busy time with her and come see me on the weekends. I would stop by when it was time for them to go for Daisy's. Mario exclaimed, tears in his eyes, "Are you taking us away because you hate us like your mother says?" As I handed him his luggage, a big one I had packed for him. The moment was heartbreaking. I hugged him tightly and assured him that I truly loved him, even though it wasn't true that I hated them. It was strange. Despite my best efforts to visit them last weekend, it was really challenging. It hurt a lot that they didn't say much to me. They didn't seem to want to see me at all. It wasn't until today that I had another opportunity to talk to them. They both looked very sad as I picked them up. I could now talk to them as I lifted them up. It was clear that Peach is having difficulties, even while she still shows her love for me. Daisy seems to be making it harder for her to do so. Given how difficult the situation is, I'm attempting to decide on the best course of action to reduce the harm to the kids. This kind of twisting of family dynamics can be extremely challenging. Peach is having a lot of trouble because she believes she is incapable of loving me. I can no longer watch helplessly as my princess endures pain. Since this divorce is purposefully harming them, I'm beginning to have my doubts. Do I need to take the divorce further? Is it possible to proceed while keeping my kids safe, or should I just stay and accept it? Now for the comment. You need to tell your divorce attorney about all of this right away. Parental alienation is what this is. A judge will definitely order it to halt, but it will probably be hard to enforce. You have to get started on this right away and keep going. Daisy is acting in a way that is really damaging. Make sure you pursue the divorce and keep all the paperwork. It will only become worse if you stay. This is known as parental alienation, and it played a significant role in my friend's child custody victory because his ex-wife was acting in a similar manner. Engage a lawyer as soon as possible and record Daisy's actions. Seek the children's medical attention. This is a very bad position for them. Your kids shouldn't be left with her unattended. Tell your lawyer what she did. Inform CPS about her treatment of the kids, if necessary. Never again let her actions go unchecked for the sake of your kids. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.